I hope that you were able to watch the election of Pope Leo. What a beautiful moment it was for the Universal Church, and one that only happens a few times in our lifetime. For me, I was at the rectory and someone texted me, "white smoke," which out of context would have made no sense, but on the given day, I knew exactly what they meant, of course. So I went and found the English live stream and put it on my phone, and, well, the first thing I went over to the church and rang the church bell 50 times. Seemed like a nice, good, triumphal number. 50 days of Easter, 50 bell rings for a new pope being, on his way at least. And then as I'm watching the live stream, and eventually he comes out on the balcony, he's introduced, Habemus Papam, and we get to hear his name for the first time and see him. There was so much joy, and I rang the church bell. I thought, 267 times for 267th Pope. So the bell got a good workout. Here, St. Eugene didn't fall down, still working, so that's great. But I'll never forget that moment as he comes out on the balcony. You can see on his face, almost trembling, the overwhelming weight of the moment. Fear would be the right word, but it's a good kind of fear. A holy, somehow also a joyful fear. He is taking on the greatest responsibility ever, being the vicar of Christ on earth. So let us first of all pray for our newly elected Pope Leo. He has a greater need for our prayers than we ever could imagine. The expectations of the entire world are on his shoulders, and the devil will try at every turn to bring him down. The expectations of the world are upon him because he means something to the entire world, not just to Catholics. We saw it in the news coverage of Pope Francis, of his sickness and his sudden death. We saw it in the coverage and speculation about the conclave, and we saw it in the global excitement as news channels from around the world watched for white smoke from the Sistine Chapel. The Pope means something to the entire world, even for those who do not like that he exists or have a completely different religion or no religion at all. They still care what the Pope says. And even though they don't realize it, this is exactly how the Pope should be. Why? Because he is the shepherd of all people. Why is he the shepherd of all people? Because he is Christ's representative on earth, and because Christ Jesus, as he says in the gospel today, he says that my sheep hear my voice. I know them and they follow me. No one can take them out of the Father's hand. To put it simply, all people are under God's care, and the Pope is God's appointed representative on earth, so it is fitting that even if they would not recognize why, everyone implicitly cares about the Pope, what he says and what he does. He is the shepherd, to quote the second reading, of every race, nation, people, and tongue. We are his people, the sheep of his flock, says the responsorial psalm, referring first of all to God himself, of course, but appropriately it can also be said of the Pope too. He preaches and teaches with apostolic authority, like Paul and Barnabas in the first reading, but with the first position among the apostles that was reserved for Peter. And we should not be afraid of this reality. We need it. We need someone who speaks with global authority with the voice of Christ. To Catholics first of all, but to everyone, because in reality, we are all his sheep, as we are all children of God. But it is good for us. It is good for us, for the world, to have a universal shepherd. Now, there's a bit of a sidebar, but some people think the Pope was invented later on, right? That it was just something that Catholics made up as a power move or something. But no, the papacy is there from the very beginning. Read the Gospels. Actually, look at what they say. Over and over and over again, Peter is listed first among the apostles. Most of the time, he's their speaker, the one who, when all the apostles respond or there's a conversation, he's the one who says something. Even in the book of Acts, whenever St. Paul has to correct him and bring hey, Peter, you're wrong on this, Peter is still the one who is the source of authority. He is still the one who is obviously recognized as the leader, the point around which everything else goes. And that's true history too, even in the centuries afterwards. Everyone always cared what the Bishop of Rome said. It's always been like that because we implicitly recognize that there's something special about the one who follows after the one to whom Christ said, "You are Peter, and upon this rock I will build my church." So as Catholics, in charity, let us be proud of our Pope. Let us support him and pray for him. Pope Leo will be different than Pope Francis, and that is okay. Don't worry about looking for what side he is on. Ignore the news telling you, what he's going to do. They don't know what he's going to do. Just like they didn't know who he was going to be, that he was going to be elected. Let's instead receive him for what he actually says and does. not what you want him to say or what you want him to do or what you think or are afraid he will say or do. Receive him for what he actually says and does, or who he is even more specifically. He is our shepherd. He is our visual and personal representative of Christ. He will comfort us, but he will also challenge us, and as a good father does. Let us rejoice to receive and be received by our shepherd, Pope Leo, and pray for him to God that he may serve well all of the people, all of the sheep that are in the Father's hand, that Christ has entrusted to him. It's an awesome responsibility that is not like anything else in the world, and again carries that great mystery that even non-Catholics, the whole world cares what the Pope says and does, and that implicitly tells us about the power that Christ put into that role. But this being Mother's Day, we shouldn't just stop there. One of the beautiful things, I'm sure this happens every time that a new Pope is elected from wherever he's from, everyone shows up and says, whoever knew him has all these stories about his previous life, right? Oh yeah, I used to take his trash out. Like I would wave hello to him every week, right? That kind of stuff. And there's so many of those with Pope Leo, as Americans, so we get to be the ones this time to enjoy that, to kind of revel in that connection. One of those beautiful ones, though, is hearing from his family. And they've interviewed his brothers, which I'm not sure how he feels about that. He's probably covering his face in embarrassment, like, oh no, what are they going to say, right? But one of the most touching things that I've heard from that is how he used to play Mass on his mother's ironing board, that he used to exhibit these pious behaviors even as a young man. On this Mother's Day, I think it's very important to recognize, to point out here, and I hope this becomes we become very aware of this, vocations don't just come from out of nowhere. Priests and nuns and people like the Pope come from a family. Pope Leo, before he was Pope Leo, of course, was playing Mass on his mother's ironing board. He came from a home and a family with siblings. His vocation was supported in his family, and that led to him being the Holy Father that we know today. It's so important to recognize that the Church needs us, needs you, needs your family, your sons and daughters to be part of the mission of the gospel. Again, we wouldn't say it out loud, but we implicitly kind of behave like, well, priests and religious and the people that we want to be in the Church, they're just going to show up and we don't have to do anything. No, they have to come from somewhere. Pope Leo had a family and siblings and grew up in a neighborhood and went to school and had friends, like all the stuff that all of our kids do. He did. Like he had, quote, a regular life. He came from life, from a home, from a family. And that's so beautiful and so encouraging. And so I want us to joyfully realize that and connect with that and say, yeah, mothers, especially today, thinking about, before I get into that, God bless you. Thank you for your love and your sacrifice that motherhood so often entails, often unthanked. May your sacrifice for the good of your family, your participation in creation even, give you rewards for eternal life, for sure. But let's also joyfully take up, mothers and fathers, the realization that, yes, your son could be Pope someday, could be a priest or a bishop. Your daughter could be a religious sister. They could be saints, right? That can come from your family, from our families. It's a beautiful realization. It might even be terrifying. It might even have this kind of trembling weight to it of like, oh, wow, I could be part of something that special. But you can. God is calling future saints, future popes, future religious, all kinds of people, all those people that we love having in the Church. He's calling them from our own families. So let us joyfully participate in that call, foster vocations in the home. Reach out to what God is calling them to. Show your young people that they have a purpose in life, maybe even a purpose specifically in the Church. What a beautiful thing it is. Everyone's so pumped to learn about where Pope Leo is from. Let there be more like that. Let there be more vocations where we live and say, wow, how incredible it was that this important person came from my own family, from my own neighborhood, from my own church, from my own school. Let's take that reality seriously, that it can be that person, that young person, right in front of us. Because, of course, we're all called to something beautiful by God. We all have a call to holiness. Let us embrace that. Let us embrace the universal church. Let us embrace so many good things God has given us. Pray for Pope Leo. He needs it more than anybody else right now. What a wonderful gift he has received. What a wonderful gift that we have received. The Lord is so good to us all around. Let us participate in that gift.